After rebirth, I gave up on Ethan Lu, no longer foolishly believing he had good reasons for standing me up on our engagement day, nor would I carry my luggage northward to find him in the bitter winter, freezing until my hands and feet cracked, and certainly not hide away to cry myself to collapse upon learning he married another woman, only to freeze to death in the cold winter. This time, I threw the engagement ring directly into the water. I informed both sets of parents first. The engagement was off, and I was leaving the country, when Ethan Lu jumped into the icy lake in late autumn, struggling desperately to retrieve the ring and humbly asked me why. I stared at his face, pale from the cold, and drove the knife deeper into his heart. Nothing. I just don't love you anymore. 1. I stood by the lake, clutching the engagement ring in my hand. Under the sunlight, the diamond on the ring sparkled brilliantly, like stars in the night sky. It was breathtakingly beautiful. In 1986, such a diamond ring was not only beautiful but also incredibly valuable. I curled my lips into a bitter smile, raised my hand, and without a moment's hesitation, flung it far away. With a heavy splash, the ring sank to the bottom of the lake, its brilliance instantly swallowed by the water. I turned and walked away, never looking back. Ethan Lu, I don't care for the ring you gave me anymore. I've been reborn. Reborn on the day before Ethan Lu was supposed to get engaged to me. This ring was carefully chosen by Ethan Lu, and he couldn't wait until the engagement day. He put it on my finger early. In his words, "Chloe, I can't wait another day. I wish I could make you my bride today." At that time, tears of happiness streamed down my face, thinking I would forever hold a special place in Ethan Lu's heart, until the next day. When he stood me up at our engagement banquet in front of all our family and friends, he disappeared, completely vanished into thin air. No one knew where he had gone. I nearly went mad, abandoning all the guests, searching frantically through the entire military compound's residential area for any trace of him. In the end, all I found was a farewell letter he had left on his desk. "Chloe Jiang, it wasn't until our engagement approached that I realized I've never loved you. Don't look for me. Our fate has run its course." I stared blankly at those 2 lines, feeling as if my heart were being sliced by knives. Even breathing hurt. That was his handwriting. I recognized it. I don't know how I managed to walk out of the residential building holding that letter. Only remembering a dense crowd of guests surrounding me downstairs, they blocked my way and asked, "Where's Ethan? What did he say? Hurry up and look again." Ethan must have been delayed by something urgent in the military. No one even considered the possibility that Ethan Lu had abandoned me, because everyone in the military family compound knew that Ethan Lu loved me dearly. He had wanted to marry me for ages. Since childhood, Ethan Lu and I had been inseparable, always seen together. Both sets of parents had long assumed we would eventually marry, so they often jokingly referred to each other as in-laws. People in the residential compound also frequently said I was lucky. "Chloe, you're so fortunate to marry Ethan. You won't even have to leave our compound. Everyone knows each other here, and Ethan dotes on you so much." They kept saying this over and over, and after a while, I started to believe it. Every time, I would blush shyly, too embarrassed to respond, while Ethan Lu openly admitted it without hesitation. He grabbed my hand firmly and flashed a grin at the neighbors. "That's right, I'm definitely going to marry Chloe someday. I must marry Chloe." Ethan Lu's eyes shone with unwavering determination, as if making a vow to the heavens. Back then, I naively believed Ethan Lu truly loved me, only to realize in the end that I was nothing but a clown. Reborn. This time, I will live for myself. "Ethan Lu, please disappear from my world." 2. I threw away the ring and went home, finally seeing my long-missed parents. Remembering how much they worried about me in my past life, how their hair turned white over my marriage, I couldn't help but feel my nose sting. I hugged them tightly, tears uncontrollably soaking their shoulders. As soon as she saw me crying, Mom immediately became tense. "Chloe, what's wrong? Did you argue with Ethan? Don't cry, don't cry. Tell me what happened." Mom wiped away my tears with heartache, her own eyes turning red as she did so. Dad is much calmer than Mom. He took a drag of his cigarette and said solemnly, "Ethan is a sensible child. If there's any issue, talk to him properly. Don't sulk secretly by yourself." Suppressing the guilt in my heart, I wiped away my tears, and finally, a hint of determination flashed in my eyes. "Dad, Mom, I'm calling off my engagement with Ethan Lu. I won't be getting engaged tomorrow." My tone was unusually resolute, startling both of them. Their faces paled for a moment, wanting to dissuade me, but in the end, they all held back. "Chloe, are you sure about this?" My mother smoothed the stray hairs at my temples, her eyes filled with heartache. I nodded solemnly. "I'm sure." Dad frowned, sighed heavily with a solemn expression. "Marriage is a serious matter. Once you've made a decision, it's not easy to go back on it." I pressed my lips tightly together and clenched my fists. "I promise I won't regret it." How could I ever regret it, in my past life, because I loved Ethan Lu. I firmly believed that he didn't abandon me willingly. There must have been some hardship forcing him. So I pressured both families to use all their connections to help me find Ethan Lu. Eventually, I learned he had appeared in Heilongjiang province. Ignoring my family's pleas, I packed my bags and trekked through mountains and rivers to reach that bitterly cold land of Heilongjiang, in the bitter cold of winter. My hands and feet were covered with frostbite, festering and suppurating, the pain so severe I could only walk with a crutch, after immense hardship. When I finally found Ethan Lu in an upscale cafe, he already had another woman by his side. Clad in a warm woolen coat, she clung to Ethan Lu's arm, looking down at me with disdain. Standing before her in my tattered clothes, gaunt and wretched, she looked every bit the noblewoman. While I resembled nothing more than a beggar on the street, I grabbed Ethan Lu and demanded to know why he had abandoned me. Ethan Lu ruthlessly shook me off, his eyes as cold as ice. "Who are you?" "Sorry. I don't know you." With that, he walked away with the woman without looking back. I chased after her and demanded to know who the woman was. Ethan Lu curled his lips into a faint smile, gazing at the woman with eyes full of affection. "This is naturally my wife. Please stop bothering me. It's time for us to go home." Watching the two of them walk away arm in arm, my tears instantly overflowed, and my heart felt as if it had been crushed beyond repair. By then, I had spent the last penny I had. I hid in a drafty, broken warehouse, shivering uncontrollably. Tears streamed down my face, freezing into ice almost immediately. I cried until I lost all sensation. Then, I remained forever in the bitterly cold winter nights of Heilongjiang province, never to wake again. Looking back on my past life, I was pitifully foolish, but since fate has given me a chance to be reborn, I must cherish it dearly and never again sacrifice my precious youth for Ethan Lu. I will draw a clear line between him and me, completely and utterly. 3. Upon hearing that I wanted to break off the engagement, the entire Lu family was thrown into chaos. Ethan Lu rushed to my home in a hurry, his eyes reddened, his fingers gripping my shoulders turning white and trembling slightly. "Chloe, are you abandoning me?" His clear tears slid down his sharply chiseled cheeks. I remained expressionless. "That's right, I don't want you anymore, in this lifetime. I just want to live well and stay far away from Ethan Lu." Hearing my resolute words, Ethan Lu's lips trembled slightly. "I don't believe it. Chloe, you clearly accepted my ring." He naturally grasped my left hand wearing the ring, but the moment his fingertips brushed over it, his face froze. He didn't feel the presence of the ring. He was panicking, clutching my hand tightly. He lifted it to see. Indeed, the middle finger was bare. His eyes instantly turned bloodshot. "Chloe, where's the ring?" His voice trembled, as if someone had suddenly squeezed his heart. My eyes stung slightly as I forcefully suppressed the last trace of attachment I had for him in my heart. "Throw it away," I said coldly. "Where did you throw it?" "Into the lake." The next second, Ethan Lu dashed out, leaving me behind. An hour later, he stood before me again, drenched from head to toe, with water even trickling down his pant legs. Strands of hair clung wetly to his forehead, in the depths of autumn. The lake water was bone-chillingly cold. He was so frozen that his face turned pale, his lips even turning purple. "Chloe, I found the ring." He knelt trembling on one knee before me. "Let me propose again. Say yes, will you?" Looking at his disheveled and pitiful appearance, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. "Ethan Lu, who are you trying to impress with your fake affection?" I left him shivering in the cold wind and turned to walk away, yet he grabbed hold of me abruptly. "Chloe, why so sudden?" I didn't even turn my head, just pretended to be nonchalant with a shrug. "Nothing much. I just don't love you anymore. Our fate has run its course. Ethan Lu, in this lifetime, it's my turn to say these words to you. For, from the day the engagement was called off, Ethan Lu never bothered me again. And I had no intention of concerning myself with him, focusing entirely on studying abroad instead, in my previous life, to stay by Ethan Lu's side. I even gave up the opportunity for a government-sponsored study abroad program that my advisor had secured for me, insisting on staying to get engaged to Ethan Lu, but this time I've figured it out. People should live for themselves. Upon learning of my sudden change of heart, my mentor couldn't hide his surprise. Aren't you afraid of leaving Ethan Lu alone in the country? Not only the entire residential compound, but even the school knew about my relationship with Ethan Lu. On one hand, my advisor hoped I would pursue further studies abroad, but on the other hand, he couldn't bear to break Ethan Lu and me apart. I tugged at the corner of my lips and said indifferently, "Whether he's lonely or not is no longer my concern." Hearing the coldness in my words, my advisor froze momentarily. "What's the matter? Did the young couple have a fight?" he cautiously probed. I shook my head. "I'm calling off the engagement. From now on, he's him, and I'm me." As I said these words, my heart couldn't help but sink, as if forcibly uprooting a seed that had been buried deep within me for years and had already taken root. Hearing this, my advisor let out a slight sigh. "Chloe, you must think carefully. Once you go abroad, seeing Ethan Lu again won't be." Before he could finish speaking, I interrupted him. "Don't worry, Professor, I'll never regret it." Seeing my determination, my advisor finally handed me the materials for studying abroad. As I walked out of the office holding the documents, the corners of my eyes felt slightly warm. I wasn't sure whether it was excitement for the new life I was about to embrace or regret over past emotions. In any case, my feelings were mixed. While flipping through the materials in my hand as I exited the office building, I unexpectedly collided with someone. "Excuse me." I was about to apologize when I looked up and met a pair of weary, weathered eyes. It was Ethan Lu. He looked as though he hadn't slept all night, dark circles under his eyes, gazing at me with profound intensity. Meeting again, the atmosphere was so cold it seemed about to freeze over. His slightly pale lips parted, hesitating for a long moment before he finally managed to squeeze out a sentence. "Chloe, I heard you're going abroad." 5. I was amazed at how well-informed Ethan Lu was. I haven't told anyone about my plans to go abroad except my parents. My gaze darkened as I avoided his eyes and brushed past him. He suddenly grabbed my wrist, his voice trembled with sadness. "Chloe, won't you even say a word to me?" His humble tone made my heart suddenly tighten, but I fiercely suppressed this worthless heartache. "Chloe Jiang, it's time you learned your lesson." "I don't want to." With a dark expression, I deliberately spoke crudely. "Where I go is none of your damn business." As soon as the words left my mouth, I saw his clenched fist trembling. The next second, with a forceful move, he pinned me against the cold, hard wall of the office building. "Chloe, if you leave now, I'm afraid we'll never see each other again in this lifetime. Do you know that?" he roared, his voice hoarse as if his throat were filling with blood. I was stunned by him. Since childhood, I had never seen Ethan Lu lose his temper so fiercely. He was always gentle by nature and never raised his voice. What's gotten into him? Did he take the wrong medicine? Or did he completely lose it after I dumped him first? Definitely got triggered. After calming down, I coldly curled the corner of my lips. "That's for the best. Honestly, I've long been sick of looking at your face. Get out of the way." I pushed him hard, when my fingertips touched his frail shoulders. The lightness of the touch couldn't help but make my heart tremble. How did Ethan Lu lose so much weight in just a few days? Before, his shoulders were broad and sturdy. I often lean on his shoulder, laughing and teasing him until he gets worked up. Then he'd scoop me up in his arms, spin me around several times, and only when I'm dizzy, crying, and begging for mercy, does he triumphantly set me down. This was Ethan Lu's only way of punishing me, though it seemed like punishment. Afterward he'd spend ages comforting me, massaging my throbbing temples and brewing sweet syrup for me. Recalling these moments, my eyes grow slightly moist, my nails dug deeply into my palms, the sharp pain keeping me anchored to my last shred of rationality. I brushed past his shoulder and walked away resolutely. In that fleeting moment as we passed each other, the corner of my eye caught a glimpse of his face. The corners of his lips twitched into a bitter, desolate smile as he murmured softly, "Maybe it's better this way. You'll never hear news of my death." I frowned, feeling he was being utterly inexplicable. 6. I thought Ethan Lu and I would never meet again after this. Yet as I boarded the car to the airport under my parents' earnest, reluctant gazes, I spotted Ethan Lu far at the outermost edge of the seeing-off crowd, his even thinner now. His gaunt shoulders were hidden beneath the crisp military uniform, somewhat like a child sneaking into adult clothes. His dull eyes finally flickered with a barely perceptible light the moment they met mine. His lips moved slightly, but in the end, he didn't say a word. His knuckles turned slightly white from clenching his fist, afraid of giving him any more false impressions. I quickly averted my gaze. Chloe, take good care of yourself abroad. Call Mom when you have time. Outside the car window, Mom tightly held my hand. The warmth of her palm and the moisture at the corners of her eyes made me momentarily forget about Ethan Lu. I fought back the sting in my nose and nodded repeatedly. Amid the reluctance of my loved ones, the car finally started moving. I faintly sensed a pair of scorching eyes piercing through the crowd, lingering on me. He seemed to be trying desperately to pull me back, but was powerless to do so. I deliberately avoided looking at Ethan Lu. Yet the corner of my eye still caught his figure jerking abruptly as the car started moving. Only when the car had driven some distance did I dare glance back through the rear window. Consider it my last look at him. Outside the window, Ethan Lu kept chasing after the car, running until his face turned red and he was gasping for breath. Yet he gritted his teeth and showed no intention of stopping. My heart clenched tightly. I turned to the driver and said, "Step on it, please, I'm in a hurry." Ethan Lu, this time, it's my turn to break up with you. 7. The days of studying abroad are long and arduous. The unfamiliar environment and language, along with tedious coursework, often leave me breathless. Every day is spent shuttling between the classroom and apartment, just 2 points on a straight line. Sometimes I would even stay up all night researching topics. The busy life temporarily made me forget about Ethan Lu. I thought I would never hear anything about him again. Until one evening a week after going abroad, I received an overseas call. It was Aunt Lu calling. Ever since Ethan Lu and I broke off our engagement, I've had no contact with Mr. and Mrs. Lu. When I suddenly proposed to break off the engagement back then, Mr. and Mrs. Lu firmly disagreed. They thought Ethan Lu had upset me and came personally to persuade me to stay, but at that time, I was determined to cut ties with Ethan Lu, so I didn't even meet with Mr. and Mrs. Lu. They must have been deeply hurt that time, and never came to my house again after that. I was somewhat surprised to find out the call was from Aunt Lu. "Chloe, this is your Aunt Lu." Her voice trembled, choked with tears. I had a vague premonition that something must have happened to Ethan Lu. "What's wrong, Aunt Lu? Please don't cry first." I tried my best to calm her emotions, forgetting that my own heart had unknowingly tightened with worry. Aunt Lu sobbed as she asked me, "Chloe, have you seen Ethan? Did he come to find you?" Her hopeful voice made me reluctant to disappoint her. My voice caught in my throat, unable to come out for a long time. Sensing my hesitation, Aunt Lu's sobs became even harder to conceal. "Chloe, Ethan, he's missing." I didn't catch the rest of her words, as they were all drowned out by Aunt Lu's weeping. Then came Uncle Lu's comforting voice tinged with a sigh. "Someone his age will be fine. Why did you even call Chloe?" Shortly after, the overseas call was disconnected. I listened to the beeping sound on the phone, my heart skipping a beat. Why has Ethan Lu gone missing again? If in my past life he was avoiding me, then what's the reason this time? I hung up the phone, feeling slightly heavy-hearted. For that woman, Ethan Lu truly loved her deeply. 8. Ethan Lu abandoned his family and career for that woman. While I completed my studies abroad, 3 years passed, and upon returning to China, I had become the nation's top psychology expert. Apart from conducting psychological evaluations for some criminals, I also treat special patients. 1 month after returning to work in China, I never expected my life to intersect with Ethan Lu's again. It was an utterly ordinary afternoon when Chen Nannan, a student I was mentoring, knocked on my office door. "Professor, there's a rather difficult patient. I'm a bit..." She looked troubled. I paused for a moment, put down the pen in my hand, and then calmly asked, "What kind of patient?" "Take your time." Chen Nannan sat down, appearing slightly uneasy. "A patient who repeatedly attempted suicide. He's also from the military compound. His body was covered in cuts, all self-inflicted with a knife, and there were numerous scars on his wrists. Recalling the scene she had just witnessed, Chen Nanan's face showed a horrified expression. The police said this person had jumped into a river, taken poison, and slit his wrists. Anyway, he's dead set on dying. Chen Nanan frowned tightly, pressing her lips together. From her expression, I could imagine just how strong that patient's determination to die was. Otherwise, given all that Chen Nanan had witnessed during this month following me, she wouldn't have shown such a troubled expression. I clipped the pen onto my white coat pocket and followed Chen Nanan out the door. I'll go take a look. 9. In the ward, the heavy scent of disinfectant filled the air. The man lay on the bed. His face as pale as paper, with bandages wrapped around his arms, legs, and wrists. His eyes were dull, like two emotionless black holes. 2 police officers sat beside him, sitting bolt upright, keeping an unblinking watch over him. Seeing me arrive, they stood up. Dr. Jiang, you've finally come. He's still shouting about wanting to die, complaining that we shouldn't have saved him. The public security officer looked troubled. I nodded and said, hand him over to me. The 2 officers exchanged glances before finally walking out of the hospital room with relief. I could tell that the moment they stepped out, they visibly relaxed, as if a weight had been lifted from their shoulders. Indeed, the atmosphere in this hospital room is far too oppressive. A deathly silence prevails, as if one could hear a pin drop with perfect clarity. I sit on the chair recently occupied by the police officer, gazing softly at the patient lying in bed. If someone wants to die, there must be a reason. What's your reason? I looked at the wounds covering his body. Some were still bleeding through the bandages, showing just how deeply he had cut. Hearing me speak, he closed his eyes in despair and remained silent. I understand how you feel. I believe everyone has the right to decide their own life and death. They shouldn't stop you. I used the most basic technique of a psychologist, thinking from the patient's perspective. Seeing me take the opposite approach, he finally showed some reaction, lifting his eyelids slightly and moving his parched lips. Since you know, just let me die. His voice was hoarse, filled with despair for life. Arya is already dead. What's the point of me living? He mentioned a crucial name. Arya. Arya. My heart tightened, and I instinctively asked, Arya Liu. A flash of surprise immediately crossed his eyes. You know her? I tugged at the corner of my lips, my gaze darkening. Know her? Arya Liu was none other than the woman who haunted Ethan Liu's thoughts, the one for whom he had even abandoned me on our engagement day. 10. I never imagined Ethan Liu could be so despicable. The woman he loves actually has a fiancé. Stealing someone's love. Has Ethan Liu fallen for her to the point of losing all self-control, to have her? Is Ethan Liu really willing to bear such infamy? For the first time, I felt Ethan Liu was so disgusting deep down, and faintly realized how pathetic I was. Over these past 20+ years, I had never truly seen Ethan Liu for who he was. Meng Jichao, tears streaming down his face, told me that Arya Liu had died on a mission and said he didn't want to live anymore either. At this moment, I deeply felt how unworthy Meng Jichao's suffering was. Because memories from my past life told me Arya Liu wasn't dead at all. She was happily living it up with Ethan Liu in Heilongjiang at this very moment. She had already become Ethan Liu's wife, accompanying him daily to high-end venues, always seen together as a couple. Only Meng Jichao remained foolishly convinced that his fiancée had been murdered. He cried until his eyes were bloodshot. How pitiful. I didn't even get to see Arya one last time. They said Arya's body still hasn't been found. Meng Jichao cried, frantically tearing at the bandages covering his body as blood seeped through, stinging my eyes. Calm down, I tried to restrain him, but Meng Jichao was surprisingly strong. His voice trembled violently, causing the blood on his body to seep out faster. We were about to get married. Why? Why did she suddenly leave me alone? Arya, Arya, my love. Don't worry, I'll be with you soon, very soon. His pupils trembled, radiating a blissful light as if resolved to die. While his pale lips curled upward, blood soaked my sleeve, and only then did I notice that all the bandages on his body had been torn open. Doctor, hurry! I had no choice but to shout loudly. The next second, doctors, nurses, and police officers all rushed into the ward in a swarm. I was pushed aside by the crowd and ended up standing at the very edge. They were busy trying to save Meng Jichao, While I was overwhelmed with mixed emotions, my hanging hand clenched tightly. And I found myself gritting my teeth unconsciously. The hatred I thought I had buried deep within began to smolder quietly in my heart once again. How could they hurt someone so deeply affectionate like this? If she sees Meng Jichao in this state, wouldn't Arya Liu's heart ache? Perhaps they simply have no hearts to feel pain, but shouldn't there be even the slightest punishment? 11. I spent the whole night thinking it over, but ultimately dismissed the idea of telling Meng Jichao the truth. Everyone has their own fate. What I need to do is not to expose Arya Liu, but to help Meng Jichao untangle his heart and let go of Arya Liu. Yet such rationality lasted only a day before I gave up, because news came from the hospital, after being resuscitated last night. Meng Jichao attempted to hang himself again in his ward that same evening. Fortunately, the nurse discovered him in time and performed emergency treatment once more. This time, Meng Jichao was already unconscious. With only his last breath left, when I arrived at the hospital, Chen Nannan even told me that there was no saving him. I pushed her aside, barged in, and grabbed Meng Jichao's arm. Meng Jichao, hang in there. Arya Liu isn't dead at all. She's lying to you. I can't do it. Can't help Arya Liu deceive Meng Jichao. Can't stand by and watch without saving a life. Meng Jichao's tightly closed eyes twitched slightly. It seemed he truly heard my words. Teacher, your method really works. Chen Nannan thought I was deliberately provoking Meng Jichao. Her eyes filled with admiration for me. I pursed my lips tightly, my eyes fixed intently on Meng Jichao. Before long, he indeed slowly opened his eyes. Arya. The first thing he did upon waking was call her name. My heart clenched painfully once again. Meng Jichao, I'm sorry. I never told you. I know Arya Liu's whereabouts. She's not dead. Not only is she alive, but she's living well. Perhaps only by letting Meng Jichao see Arya Liu can he reignite his will to live. To be precise, only then can he truly see Arya Liu for who she is. Meng Jichao instantly clutched my sleeve tightly upon hearing my words. Are you serious? Oh really? You're not lying to me. His dull, grey eyes seemed to light up instantly, igniting with hope for survival. I nodded solemnly. I'm not lying to you. First recover from your injuries. Then I'll take you to Heilongjiang province to find her immediately. 12. Meng Jichao couldn't wait for his injuries to fully heal. As soon as he could walk, he started making arrangements to go to Heilongjiang province to find Arya Liu. I agreed to his request. Go one day earlier, and Meng Jichao's emotional knot will be untied one day sooner. Sitting on the train to Heilongjiang province, I was bundled up so thickly that I might as well have been wrapped like a zongzi. Winters in Heilongjiang are bitterly cold, so cold that just thinking about it makes me shiver uncontrollably, with pain shooting through my hands and feet. As the train gradually approached Heilongjiang province, a thick layer of frost slowly accumulated on the windows in the darkness of the night. During the journey, Meng Jichao suddenly asked me, Dr. Jiang, how did you know Arya Liu was in Heilongjiang province? He finally remembered to ask me this question. I had already prepared an answer long ago. I have a friend in Heilongjiang province who knows Arya Liu. I was talking about Ethan Liu. I wonder what his reaction will be when he sees Ethan Liu again after 3 years. 13. Everything went much smoother than I expected. It was still that upscale cafe where Meng Jichao and I waited for 2 days before finally seeing Ethan Liu and Arya Liu. This time, there was an additional person besides the two of them, a man dressed sharply in a suit, with slicked back hair. I found it strange and was pondering why this scene differed from my past life when Meng Jichao suddenly lost control and charged toward Arya Liu. Arya, Meng Jichao went crazy, grabbing Arya Liu in a tight embrace. Arya, you're really not dead. Why did you lie to me? Why? He clung desperately to Arya Liu, refusing to let go no matter what. Arya Liu was instantly frightened, her face flushing crimson as she pushed Meng Jichao away with all her might. Who are you? I don't know you. Her eyes were red, like a startled fawn, yet the flicker of guilt in her gaze betrayed her. Arya, what did you say? Meng Jichao was instantly stunned. He gazed blankly at Arya Liu, his eyes filled with disappointment and unfamiliarity. Arya Liu hooked her arm around Ethan Liu beside her and whispered coquettishly, Ethan, let's go quickly. At this moment, Ethan Liu remained motionless, as if frozen in place, his gaze fixed blankly on one spot. Arya Liu followed his line of sight and realized that the person Ethan Liu was staring at was me. Ethan. She shook Ethan Liu's arm lightly. Ethan Liu seemed to snap back to reality in an instant, responding with a blank expression. What are you looking at? Let's hurry up and go. Ethan Liu nodded, withdrawing his gaze from me and quickly trying to follow Arya Liu away, but I clearly saw his eyes stealing several glances at me. I stood in the icy snow, gazing at Ethan Liu, whom I hadn't seen in 3 years, my eyes colder than the depths of winter. Just as Ethan Liu, Arya Liu, and that slick-haired man were about to leave, Meng Jichao snapped. He snatched Arya Liu from Ethan Liu's embrace and viciously choked her by the neck. Arya Liu, who is he? You betrayed me. You had your comrade lie to me about your death, then eloped with this man. Is that it? Arya Liu was being choked until she could barely breathe. She struggled desperately while trying to persuade Meng Jichao. Jichao, listen to me. Leave first. I'll explain it to you later. Let's go, quick. She desperately pounded Meng Jichao's arm, but Meng Jichao was already seeing red and wouldn't listen to a word. The next second, under the winter sun, a cold glint flashed before my eyes. The man with the slicked back hair suddenly pulled out a dagger and aimed it at Arya Liu. Arya, no, we're exposed. 14. I heard Ethan Liu's roar, then. The dagger struck Arya Liu squarely in the chest. Blood sprayed out as Meng Jichao's eyes widened in shock, his eyeballs nearly popping out of their sockets. Arya, what happened? Arya. He desperately pressed his hands against Arya Liu's wound, but it was too late. Arya Liu had already collapsed into a pool of blood. Ethan Liu quickly engaged in a fight with the greasy-haired man. Take Arya away, now. His eyes bloodshot, he roared at Meng Jichao. But Meng Jichao's heart had died along with Arya Liu. He sat motionless in the snow, staring blankly at the glaring pool of crimson on the ground, his gaze vacant as if his soul had been drained. Only my heart was hanging in suspense along with Ethan Liu. At the same time, my mind went completely blank. What's going on? What's going on? Exposed. What does that mean? An explosive conjecture suddenly burst open in my mind. So, Ethan Liu and Arya Liu aren't really married. Why did he disappear? Was it because he pretended to be married to Arya Liu to eliminate enemy spies? At this realization, my legs gave way, and I collapsed onto the snowy ground. My heart felt as if it were being tightly squeezed, and my breath froze in my chest. Had I been misunderstanding Ethan Liu all along? I didn't dare to think, nor did I dare to delve deeper. All I felt was tears gushing out uncontrollably, blurring my vision. Ethan. I softly called his name. I finally understood. Why was I reborn? It wasn't because the heavens pitied me and gave me a second chance at life, but because they sought justice for Ethan Liu, granting me an opportunity to uncover the truth. I lay on the icy snow, clutching my chest tightly, where the pain was sharp as a knife's cut. When Ethan Liu knocked down the greaser-haired man and ran toward me, I saw behind him. The greaser-haired man pulled out something dark from his coat and hurled it fiercely at Ethan Liu. Ethan, watch your back. 15. When the explosion sounded, Ethan Liu shielded me tightly. A strong smell of blood mixed with burning assaulted my nostrils. I was terrified, heartbroken, and couldn't stop trembling all over. Ethan, are you okay? I held his face, checking again and again. My tears broke through my eyes. Slowly freezing in the icy wilderness, Ethan Liu's face was deathly pale, yet he managed to curl his lips slightly and gently wiped away the tear stains on my face. Chloe, I'm so happy to see you again. My Chloe has come back after all. Good, so good. As he spoke, his lips grew paler, and his eyelids gradually drooped lower. Ethan, wake up. I shook him desperately, but he slowly closed his eyes. At the moment his eyelids fell, a satisfied smile still lingered on his lips. Struggling to crawl out from under him, I looked at his back and immediately felt such heartache that I nearly fainted. Ethan Liu's leg had already been blown off. The scene was chaotic, with charred debris everywhere. Oh my God, what have I done? My mind went completely blank for a moment, and for the first time, I felt truly damned. If it weren't for me, Arya Liu wouldn't have died, Ethan Liu wouldn't have lost a leg in the explosion. I collapsed onto the snow-covered ground, darkness engulfing my vision as I completely blacked out. 16. The enemy spies were successfully eliminated, but Ethan Liu was permanently disabled and could never carry out missions again. Arya Liu sacrificed herself honorably, and the day after her death, Meng Jichao followed her. As for me, I remain unscathed, barely surviving in this world. When Ethan Liu came to see me in his wheelchair, it was already the second time I had been resuscitated after secretly taking sleeping pills. He looked at my pale face, and tears suddenly streamed down his cheeks. "Chloe, do you really hate me that much? Would you rather die than look at me one more time?" Ethan Liu still believes to this day that I attempted suicide because I didn't want to see him. I close my eyes, but still can't stop the tears from welling up. "Do you know Meng Jichao is my..." Before I could finish speaking, Ethan Liu abruptly cut me off. "That has nothing to do with you. Everything is just a coincidence." His neck thickened, veins bulging on his forehead. This scene suddenly reminded me of my childhood. Every time I made a mistake, even when Ethan Liu knew it was my fault, he would stubbornly defend me anyway. He was always like this. Eventually, all the kids in the compound said Ethan Liu was terribly biased. They always teased him, saying he knew how to protect his wife at such a young age. Remembering childhood events and glancing at Ethan Liu's empty pant leg on his right side, my tears mixed with blood as they fell. These past few days, I've nearly cried myself blind. Seeing the blood, Ethan Liu became even more nervous than I was. "Chloe, doctor, hurry, Chloe is bleeding." He frantically wheeled his chair around, shouting wildly in the hospital room until a group of doctors surrounded me. Only then did he stop. 17. In the end, I didn't die after all, because Ethan Liu, dragging his disabled right leg, never left my side for a moment, staring at me without blinking. Just like how the police once watched Meng Jichao, every bite of food I ate, every sip of water I drank had to go through him first. Despite being disabled, he spent every day trying to cheer me up. Whether by telling jokes or taking me out to relax, others would take their girlfriends out for rides on bicycles. Ethan Liu was bold enough to take me wheelchair racing with him. He claimed to have mastered wheelchair use to perfection and wanted to challenge me, an able-bodied person, to a race, to see who could go faster. Every time I saw him spinning his wheelchair through the breeze and sunlight with a radiant smile, I couldn't help but marvel. How could anyone be so optimistic? Even without his right leg, he remains as free as a bird. Later, he struggled to rise from his wheelchair, knelt on the ground with his left leg, and solemnly proposed to me. He said, "Chloe, marry me again. Will you?" He said, "Even after becoming disabled, I still live happily because you came back," he said. "Chloe, would you be my right leg for the rest of your life?" He added, "Sorry for being a burden to you for the rest of our days," but I had already burst into tears. I held him tightly, tears streaming down my face, 1,000 words choked in my throat, yet I couldn't utter a single one. I could only nod repeatedly. "I do, I do, I do. I wish I could say it 10,000 times. Ethan Liu, I do."